Hey Stampers, Kim from stampingandperfection.com. Welcome to my craft room. Make sure you hit subscribe and click that bell to get notifications of all my future videos. Today I want to share a home decor project. I like using my stamps and dies to create home decor projects because I feel like I'm getting more for my money. Like it's a way of stretching your stamps. And I'm going to create a wall or a door hanging. Like I just want to do a welcome door hanging, and I made that little sketch. And I've got some flour sack towels that I got from Grove Collaborative. I actually think these were free or they were on super sale or something because I am a regular subscriber. And it comes in a package of 3, and it's very thin cotton material. It's 100% organic cotton. And I put these in my craft room, not quite sure what I was going to do with them. So the edges are nicely sewn, but I'm going to cut this down and just use a small piece. I decided that I'm going to fold it in half, so I did that. I want to just create a template for my pattern. So I'm putting this down on the self-healing craft mat that is always on my craft table. And I'm pulling out one of my rulers. I have this really nice Tim Holtz ruler. It's a zeroing ruler. The zero's in the center, so it's really nice to actually center things. So I'm just counting the blocks, and there are 17 blocks altogether, and I need to know where halfway is, so I just divide that by 2, and I want to go over 8.5 blocks. And then I'm going to make sure I go down the same number of blocks on each side. And I check myself a couple of times here just to make sure, because I've been crafting all day and I'm getting tired, but this is a super relaxing project because I'm using stuff in my stash. This cost me nothing. So I'm just connecting those 2 points that I just made so I get an even pennant shape here. And I'm going to just remove this, and then I'm going to put this down on my fabric. Pardon my head here. First I need to cut this off. And I'm going to just run I have this little We Are Memory Keepers circular cutter, and it works really well to cut those edges off. And I just run it along the edge of the ruler there. That's a nice thick ruler, by the way. So I decided that I want to do welcome. So I'm pulling out a couple of my alphabet dies. I have a ridiculous number of alphabet dies. And I just got this new one from Trinity Stamps. This is my new favorite one. This is their marshmallow alphabet die cut set, and I love it. So I love the font. I love the size of the letters. Like, I think this is going to make some really great cards. But the dies come together, so I need to use my wire cutters. And if you haven't purchased a pair of wire cutters, you need very thin-tipped, fine-tipped wire cutters. My favorite stamps, mftstamps.com, has them. I actually found the thin enough ones hard to find. So I'm just kind of laying out my letters to make sure that these will in fact fit. And so I just want to write out welcome, and I'm really liking it as I lay it out. Like I really like that a lot. And of course it only comes with one E. And I was happy that it came with a W and an M, because a lot of times sets will come with one of those to use for a W and an M, but I like to spell out my words and sort of figure out how I'm going to lay things down there. So I am going to go ahead, and now that I've cut those out, and by the way, as I cut those dies apart, notice that I placed them on those magnet strips. I got those magnet strips at Stamp and Storage. I don't buy the magnet sheets anymore because I never need a whole sheet, or rarely need a whole sheet. I like those little rectangular ones. You can get packages of it's almost like their leftovers or their ends, and a package of 20 of those is not too pricey, and it actually really serves the purpose really well. Then I don't have to cut it down. So now I'm pulling out, Altenew has these fabulous layered floral die cuts. So I pulled out the I think it's called Crafted Flower Lily. This is the lily. It's my favorite one. And I got this recently, and I bet this is at least the fourth project I've used it on since I got it in the last couple of weeks. But I am going to, so I'm just deciding how I want to lay this out. And I'm going to pull out my bin of scrap paper, and I'm going to start picking colors. So the first thing I do, I have my front door and my shutters on my house are deep green. And so I want to use a green for the welcome. And I pull out this piece of 6 by 6 inch, I believe this is basil Swiss dot paper. I love this paper. I've never been able to find where to purchase this particular Swiss dot paper in any color from Basil. This came in a craft kit, and I didn't use it for a project because I loved it and I was saving it for a special project. But I'm just going to use that little bit, and I'll still have enough to use for a card panel. So I'm just going through my bin of scraps, and I've cut the scraps down to card front sizes, and I'm trying to pull out, because for this I need at least 4 different shades of red or pink, and you can see my bin there. That sits right next to me on my paper cart, and I can just reach over and grab a scrap anytime I need it. So this is super handy. That's just a fridge bin. That's how I store my extra cardstock or my scrap cardstock. I just trim it down to either sentiment size or card front size, and then, I'm just pulling out a bunch of reds. I want a couple of red flowers, and I want at least one yellow with some orange in it, because those are the colors I associate most with the lilies in my yard. So, and I'm pulling out a couple of greens for the leaves, and I need a black for the center of the lily, and so I'm just pulling all of this out. So I'm kind of sorting this out. Now on that Altenew package, there is a layering guide of, it shows you that, see right here, it shows you that the large solid piece for that flower, that lily at the bottom there, needs to be the lightest color. Then the next darkest will be the next layer, and so forth. So I've got that all set, and I went ahead and I die cut everything. Die cutting took a significant amount of time. So now I'm just tracing my pattern onto that folded paper, and I marked it 2 squares over, which is a 1/2 inch, because I'm going to be cutting this, and I make one mistake here. I wish I made the extra space so I could fold it over all along the one side, but I needed to do the bottom of that pennant on the other side also. So I'm going to have kind of a raw edge on that side. It's okay. This is just for my, this is just a door hanging on my front door, and I don't want it to be perfect. I kind of want it to be a little raggedy. So it's okay, but you may want to actually put an extra 1/2 inch all around that triangular shaped pennant, or that pointy pennant. So I decided to use some felt from my stash. I pulled out some gray felt, and I'm going to put that between the 2 layers, and give it a little bit more body. So it's not, I want it to, because I'm going to put at least 3 of those big lilies, plus the letters for welcome, plus I want to do some leaves, and I want some linen thread or some burlap or something like that. So right now I'm just kind of fitting everything together and see how it's going to go. I sort of finger press and put that together. And I did pull out my little craft iron, and I ironed the edge so it really stayed down nicely. And I ironed a lot of the wrinkles out of that. I spritzed it. You can see my distress sprayer is sitting there. And notice that I did pull out my fabric scissors. I did not use my paper scissors, which was super tempting. And so I pulled out my fabric scissors to make sure I cut the fabric. And I'm just kind of putting this together. So I'm going to do this part first. Now that piece of bamboo that I have, which I'm going to put in there, and that's going to be my hanger, that came from, I went to Pure Imports, which sadly is going out of business, and bought some placemats on clearance super cheap, like 50 cents, and each end of the placement had one of these bamboo sticks. Now, I didn't really care for those placemats. I was going to use them for making a little magazine holder to hang on my wall. But those bamboo sticks have come in handy for projects just like this. And when I'm sick of this door hanging, I will keep that stick because it will get used for something else. So I pinned the edges and I just pulled out some gold embroidery floss. I'm using all 6 strands. I pulled out a big giant needle because I've got a few layers to go through here with that felt. And I'm basically going to make a simple running stitch. I'm not even going to try to be straight or neat or even. I'm going to do that all around the outside. And that running stitch is going to be probably 1/4 of an inch or so in from the edge all around once I get done with the bamboo. I'm doing it, running it under that bamboo stick so that it sort of holds that stick in place. It probably won't matter because it's going to be hanging by that stick, but I thought that would be good. Just checking my iron. Why not touch it to see if it's hot, you know? So I'm just going to continue that all the way around. And then as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, oh, I should do some kind of interesting stitch along the edge. So I decided to do that as well. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. But you can use, you could use whatever color of embroidery floss you have. And if you don't have embroidery floss, use yarn, or you could use cord, or, whatever. And if you want to actually sew this on your sewing machine, I was trying to avoid that. So, if you want to sew it on your sewing machine, by all means, go ahead and do that. So I just started that straight stitch all across there. Now it's really holding that in place, so that's good. So now I'm going to I decided to try something along the edges to see if I like it, because if I hate it, then I can take it out. So basically I'm just making a loop, which you'll be able to see in just a second. I'm sorry I'm out of the camera range here, but I'm sort of like pushing the needle through the back side, pulling it through the front, and then making sure that the needle comes up in the thread so it forms. This stitch probably has a name, and I probably knew it at one time, but I don't remember what it is. And so I'm making these big. I don't want to spend all day stitching this. I am just making a quick project. I never keep these door wreaths and things that I make. I never keep them forever. Like last year on my blog, I had an old embroidery hoop from the 1980s in my stash that I used. It was like a plastic faux wood embroidery hoop. I used that and added die cut flowers and burlap ribbon, and I had that on my door for several months last year, and I really liked it. It was bright, it was beautiful, and my house is set back from the road quite a ways, so having something bright on the door is pretty nice. And it's a door that doesn't get used a lot because mostly we use the side door. So I just finished that all around, and then you can see I just wanted to show you that I did do that straight stitch sort of about the same amount from all the sides, just to, I just want to make it kind of interesting. Now that is the same ribbon that came on that flour sack package. I'm not wasting anything. That's what Grove Collaborative is all about. They use a lot of natural products, a lot of organic stuff. Their cleaning products are all organic and natural things, and for someone with a lot of allergies, this works for me. So I'm using this piece of ribbon because that's why they put it there. They no doubt expect that I'm going to use that for something, and I am. And I'll use the rest of this flower sack towel for something as well. Now all those die cuts I corralled in this little plastic bin, and that no doubt came from a clearance rack somewhere, and I am now just going to sort them, which is of course time consuming. And you'll notice that I have some white foam pieces in there. thought, oh, I'll put everything on white foam, but that was very time consuming, and some of those littler pieces weren't that much fun to put on foam. So I sorted them all out, and then I started. I definitely wanted the letters on white craft foam. That's just white craft foam that you get, you know, in the craft store, and I just put the letters up on that. And I used my tape runner for that, just because it was easier. But then I pulled out this new glue that I just got. This is called Barely Art Glue. It's a precision craft glue. It dries clear. It's got a precision tip on it. It's got a couple different tip choices when you buy it. And I don't see that it says scrapbooks, decorations, paper, artwork, crafts, glitter. Um, so I want to see how this is going to hold up on a project like this, because I make a lot of projects like this. You could use your hot glue gun here, but I happen to know that uh, I am my project is going to be in the sun, and it gets very humid here, so hot glue doesn't always work on these kinds of projects for me. So I'm just going to use this Barely Art Glue and test it out. I mean, if everything falls off it, I'll let you know that don't use it for this particular kind of project. It didn't work well on fabrics, but so far it's been up for a few days. The weather has been rainy and cruddy, but this is going to go on my front door, and I do have a storm door on there, and so the storm door will protect it. And I would love to put an actual wreath, like a grapevine wreath, on my door, but there's very little room between the storm door and the front door, because the house is very old. It was built in 1950, and they were very, sparse with putting space there. Now, I've got all this stuff put together, and notice that I put, and I'm just showing you there that I took those stem pieces and made some um, stems out of a couple different colors, and I'm using my bone folder and just curling them, because I like the way it looks. I want some curly things. I want some natural elements. And I'm just going to attach all of these together with some glue dots. Those glue dots are really good and sticky. But notice also that, I put the welcome down, and I have just one of my clear blocks on top. I have the nice thick Catherine Pooler clear blocks, so they have a good amount of weight. And I did that with the flowers as I glued them down, because I just used the fabric glue. So I put all the pieces of each one of those floral elements together, and then I glued the whole piece down and then put the clear block on top. So I'm just putting all of these together, and I'm going to attach them to the underside of the flower above the leaves with a glue dot, because I know that works. I do this all the time when I make these kinds of projects. So I like the way that looks, and I'll attach it to the fabric with that Barely Art Glue. I'll put a generous amount of glue on. I'm just pulling out some linen thread, and I'm wadding it up. I'm not trying to be neat and tidy. Like, this is my front door. I want it to look like it belongs outside. So don't you love those? That lily is so beautiful, and the just bright colors make me so happy. And now the white that you see peeking out is the foam that you see. It's not the glue. I wipe up any excess glue, although it should dry clear. It's always dried clear on my paper crafts, so I'm expecting it to do the same. And you don't have to leave these blocks on for very long. I just left them on for a couple minutes while I did other things. But now I've got it all laid out, and that's, I'm going to add some linen thread to the top there, and, try to curl a couple of those a little more. I liked that little detail there, and I like a little bit of linen thread. If I hadn't had the ribbon that came on the flower sactel package, I would have used a piece of burlap for the bow or the hanger, and you could put a bow on it. You can decorate that way more. I'm not. You can, and if you want to do all the sewing, if you want to pull out your sewing machine, go ahead and do that. So I decided to add some sequins, And these are from Catherine Pooler. This is the Blackfoot River sequin mix. I just happen to love the colors, and for some reason I just wanted a little touch of blue, but I loved the greens and the gold in there. I thought they worked perfect for the other elements in my project, and I sort of just dumped them on and decided to sort of let them fall where they landed. And I'm just putting them in the white space. I'm not sure I should have filled up all of the white space like this, but I liked it. I just like a little sparkle, and that completes my project. It was a lot of steps, and it took me it probably took a couple of hours, but I had a movie on TV. I did the die cutting, I did the little stitching, and you don't have to do the stitching at all. You could use glue. Use your Barely Art glue or use your hot glue. You could, glue that part. So you could do that, or you could use an iron-on hem tape and iron all of those pieces down. Like, you don't even need to do any sewing at all if you don't want to. So this is an easy no-sew project. I just felt like adding that floss element. I don't know. It made it look raggedier, and I kind of liked raggedy. So, and I do have a picture at the end here to show you what this looks like on my front door. I have a really pretty front door. I love my front door. It's got dental molding on it. There you go. See that? I love that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it inspires you. Please give my video a like and share with your friends, and make sure you subscribe.